Guys, welcome along to the 1%er podcast. My guest this week is a man who I've been following for about a year or so now. Really like his work. He is a business and mindset coach. He helps business owners create high performance and bigger profits. His name is AJ Roberts. AJ, welcome to the 1%er podcast. Great to have you here.
Thank you, brother. Thanks for having me. Love the show, love what it's about, love what you do. Pleasure to be on your panel of guests that you've had on recently. Honestly, mate, it's an honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Really good to have you here, AJ. Really, we connected. When did we connect? Well, like I said, I've been following you from about a year now, I think it is, and recently connected a bit more on Clubhouse. Which has been really good.
I think a lot of it's to do with we've got a lot of mutual interests, and I think our moral values and ethics align quite a lot. Don't we? So we always, like we were saying before, we tend to listen to a lot of similar people, a lot of similar content. We've got like our visions are kind of similar. We're all about developing people and all that kind of stuff. So it's a pleasure to connect, mate. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely relate to the message that you're putting out into the world as well. So yeah, I'm sure we'll chat a little bit about that on today's podcast. But yeah, my first question to you, AJ, is I'm a coach, you're a coach. What got you into coaching?
Well, I've kind of been coaching for years and years, like in different disciplines, and a lot of it really stems back to like the single parent mentality, being the oldest of four boys. Having to kind of grow up quite quick. My mum split up with my dad when I was like 7, remarried when I was just turning 9 to a soldier as well. We then moved out to Germany because that's where he got posted, so we all had to move out there. And then he was just away all the time, the whole time we lived out of Germany from 9-10 years old to when I finished school. Over there, went to a British school, and he was always away in Bosnia, Kosovo, Canada, Kenya, like just non-stop. So obviously being the oldest, I always had to like step up to the plate and kind of play dad sort of thing. So I was always in that leadership role, and I always like thank them for that. It's that's a big part of like who I am and what I do now. And I had an amazing childhood because of it. I love the old nostalgia. I diving deep back into it quite a lot because it was just so good. And, I owe it a lot to like being in that position. I was 12 years old, ironing my brother's school uniforms and doing their lunch boxes and stuff for like on a Sunday night. Do you know what I mean? And like, I asked my 13-year-old girl to like iron something like that. They'd like, where's the iron? It's just times have obviously changed a lot since then. But so I grew up real quick, and that's what already started. And then I was like captain of all sports teams, and I was always just constantly in a pursuit of personal development mentality. And I think that's obviously seeing the development it's always had on myself and the results that it's got me, and the constant pursuit of relentlessness, I think, as a result of it, because you can see what results you get from being relentless. Yeah. That's then wanted me to be able to then obviously use those skills and experiences to help other people and develop other people. And it's just, and you know exactly what I mean. You just get that thirst for seeing development and results in others that they may not have been able to achieve or aspire to be themselves, and that's really where the coaching side of things came from. So I was, even whether it's in my own team as like captain to help them develop other players, all the way to going in the military and being a strength and conditioning coach, physical training instructors, boxing coach mixed martial arts, football, all this kind of stuff. Just always been in that kind of coaching environment. And even as a soldier, as you go through the ranks, you then, you're mentoring people all the time, and trying to coach your young soldiers, your subordinates, to try and be like constantly better all the time, and just makes that team, that a unit, as solid as possible.
Nice. I think that's one of the things I really like about you is your relentlessness and your persistence and consistency. Where do you think that discipline come from? I know you said you used to be a soldier. Do you think a lot of it come from your days in the army as a soldier?
Some of it, yeah, but because I always, I'm not saying that there's always something better. I'm not like the biggest fan of that, because I think you can get caught up in that like at a young age, and it stops you from focusing. I see it as a football coach now. I coach Salisbury City under well, soon to be under 16s, but in the last year or so, I've seen, or especially the start of last season, where we had players who were on the fringes of joining us, but then they didn't because their parents were like, no, go here, because it's almost like there's always a grass is greener kind of attitude, when actually they missed out on some really fantastic development, you know. So I've always been very wary of that. I just think it's I compared myself not to other people in a negative way. I always looked to people who I aspire to be like, and just soaked up a lot of what they were doing and doing well from a young age. But I also looked at the people in my life that were doing things what I deemed wrong, and wasn't good, wasn't healthy, wasn't good for you, whether that be physically, financially, or even emotionally. So even my parents, very unhealthy people, chain smokers, drink a bottle of wine a night. So as much as I love them, I'm kind of like, I know what that eventually is going to do. And I know and I can see the things that they could have achieved if they weren't in that kind of physical state and emotion as well. So because of that, lockdown was very difficult for them. And as well as most, being a bit more physically and mentally fit, you would have been in a better position to cope with kind of lockdowns and stuff. So I think the relentlessness and the pursuit of constant personal development is because there's always that little bit of being better every single day that we can do, and it doesn't have to be something crazy like, your shit's scared of heights, so you're just going to go and jump out of a plane. It's just analyzing, like, what could I do just a little bit better every single day. It won't get you close to perfection, because I don't believe it exists. It's just puts you into that mindset of constantly being better, and as you do that, you know as well as I do, like, everything around you, like all aspects of your life, start to really improve. The people you've had on the show will, people like your Rob Morse, for example, will absolutely be able to back that up 100%, and would have very much looked at that in the same manner. So yeah, I'd say that's where it comes from.
Nice. So yeah, I mean, I like the idea of just improving every single day, just little bit by little bit, just getting 1% better every day. And it's something I teach as well. But so many people just get distracted. Life gets in the way, as it does. Business takes over, family, kids distract you. So many distractions in life. How do you encourage your clients to actually do that and follow through and get 1% better every day? How do you keep them on that path of improvement every single day?
It's just getting into the mindset, and not just clients, anybody really, even people who like maybe follow me on Instagram, Facebook, stuff like that, Clubhouse. It's just acknowledging what the alternative is if you don't do it. And it's the same as anything, like even with your mental health, I speak to a lot of obviously friends in the military who've suffered over the years, people from Afghan and all that kind of stuff. So obviously, like, a lot of people go down a really bad path, and again, a lot of people did that in lockdowns. Clients have had struggles with that, my family has. But it's just trying to acknowledge, like, what is the alternative if you don't do the very things that the intentions that you set out to do. And I think once you do that, once you can actually see what the alternative is, you almost like coach yourself into not wanting to go anywhere near that, and wanting to see what's on the bright side of the fence, although we can all have coaches in that, but we can all coach ourselves at the same time, just like giving up a habit as well. It's just like trying to coaching yourself to just acknowledge the little wins and stuff like that, like giving up smoking, giving up drinking, fast food, bad habits, gambling, spending money on pointless things, all this kind of stuff. And it's I just think that for me, it's just getting them to understand what the alternative is if they don't do this kind of stuff, but obviously getting them to have like real gaugeable, actionable, tangible results that they can achieve to actually see what the benefit is and what they're trying to do in the first place. I think that's the key thing, So I hate hot air conversations. So we all have them. We all hear them all the time, don't we? It's always just hot air, hot air, hot air, hot air, but there's no action. Like, I'm all about action and taking action.
Yeah.
And because it's at the end of the day, it's that action that's going to get you those results in the first place, isn't it? You know, you could talk to the same person in your role from the fitness side of stuff for 6 weeks in a row about, you know, that they want to get they want to get good at bench press, or they want to lose 30 pounds, or they want to do this, but it's the action at the end of the day, isn't it? So, you know, for me, that is the key. It's like from day one, the first minute, implementing something that they can action there and then, and go, no, yeah, it's really that simple. And then you almost start coaching yourself because of the tangible results you're seeing and celebrating those little wins.
Definitely. I could definitely relate to those hot air conversations that you just mentioned. Sometimes we have clients that they can talk a good game, but they're not backing it up with the actions. They're just kind of almost telling you what they want you to hear, what they should be doing, but they're not actually doing it. Mm-hmm. So it's sometimes there's just that disconnect there. The words are coming out of your mouth. Yeah. You're not actually following through with it. And
yeah, I think if they've got somebody, I think if they've got any kind of coach or mentor that's very real with them and just tells them how it is. Now, I'm a big believer in just saying how it is. You know, you don't have to be rude, but it's just being like showing people what the reality is like. You know, sometimes people do need a wake up call, and just say, look, Keith, Jane, you know, the reason why you aren't losing this weight is because you're not doing anything about it. You're not burning calories. You're not moving. You're not doing the things you said you're going to do. You're doing completely the opposite. But that is a reality. As soon as you accept that, like, things will change. You know, it's that simple. And I think just being robust with people and straight to the point is goes a long way as well. And I think people like yourselves and a lot of other people I do that just aren't about any of that pink fluff BS. A lot of people want that. They just want that person to be just straight down the line, you know, give the ass, because that's what a lot of people need.
Yeah. Especially if they've invested in you and they've paid a lot of money to work with you. They don't want the fluff. They want you to be.
Yeah. You know, but at the same time, I don't want someone to pay me good money and not do anything. You know, exactly. It works both ways. You got to meet halfway, haven't you?
100%. I like the idea of what you said, showing them the alternative. What's the consequence of you not taking the action, and just connecting to the negative implications of that inaction. Another thing that I find works well is, obviously, it all comes down to the goal, doesn't it? The vision, the why behind the goal as well, and obviously reconnecting to that. One of the things I like to do is help my clients set their goals, but reverse engineer those goals. So we start from the top down. This is what the goal is. This is what we need to do to get there. These are the daily actions that you need to do to be 1% better.
Mm-hmm. No, 100%. And it's, I think that would probably generally come from being an outcome thinker yourself. And I've been talking about outcome thinking quite a lot. And a lot of my clients have been kind of like, oh, what's that? I'm like, well, it's like the old cliche, like E plus R equals O, event plus response equals outcome. You know, it's a simple equation, but you can spin it around. So if you got the outcome at the end and you want to create that, well, we need to create an event and the required response to that. And that's how you get the outcome you want, you know. And it's the same for people who've got fitness goals, financial goals, you know, emotional goals. It's just understanding that concept, and then, like you said, reverse engineer it backwards.
Definitely. And I think, like, the challenge that can happen, I don't know if you see this with some of your clients as well, like, is that attachment to the outcome. We talk about the importance of having this goal, having this outcome-based result, and we attach an importance to that. But then we've got to say, right, we need to now unattach ourselves from that and just trust the process. Because if you become too attached to the outcome, you actually lose sight of, I find, you lose sight of the day-to-day process that you've got to go through to get there. So yes, we've set the goal. It's important, but now we need to make it not so important, and let's just focus on what we're doing right now to get there.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, people won't enjoy the process if all they're doing is focusing on the potential outcome, because and it's also a lot worse, and it feels a lot worse if suddenly something pops up on that journey that delays the process if you get into that outcome as well. Like that, I think it really affects people. It's like a real curveball that they suddenly were like, whoa, hang on a minute, rather than just actually just enjoying the process all the way along. Because, we all know, no matter what it is, if you enjoy that process, the outcome and how you feel at the end just happens by default, doesn't it? It's a byproduct of like that work and that journey you've put in the first place.
Definitely. And with your coaching, when you're coaching clients, you're a business coach, you're a mindset coach. What do you feel is, so obviously there's an element of skill involved, an element of strategy that you've got to teach. And obviously there's a big chunk of that, arguably the most important part of that is mindset, because mindset is the foundation to everything we do, whether it's fitness goals, business goals, relationship goals. Mindset is key. What do you enjoy teaching more as a coach? Is it more strategy, do this, or is it more the inner work, the more deeper sort of mindset stuff with clients?
To be honest, I think for me, the businessy side of stuff, I like the strategies and that I help implement and that I've kind of created little syllabuses for, I know work. So I know that whether Joe blogs A, B, C, D, and E, like no matter what the businesses are, you only need to tweak it slightly. It's going to work, because I've already seen it working over the last 2 years, 2.5 years. So I don't enjoy that as much because it's, I won't say repetitive, but every person's mindset is different. So I think and that's where the challenge lies, is like getting that, person A who might be just starting out, for example, don't have have a lot of limiting self-beliefs. I've got past experiences, live in the past, all that kind of stuff that comes with that baggage that might come that's causing that big stumbling block to initially take off. But then you might have high-flying executive over here who just wants to go to that next level, but they've got family issues, they've got health issues, they've got all this other stuff. So each person in that respect is much more of a challenge. So I'd say I definitely prefer, or out of the two, so to speak, I definitely prefer the mindset kind of stuff, but because that challenge is good for me, because it's testing you as a coach as well. And that's what it's all about. It's not just about, I've just pre-written everything out and I'm just going to sell it and go and just repeat myself. It's it's got to work for both of us. It's otherwise there's no challenge.
Definitely, I agree with you there, because if it was just a matter of putting together a syllabus and a process, then everyone who goes through that process would get results, right? But we both know that doesn't happen. So everyone has their own challenges, and that's where we as coaches can really help dive a little deeper into helping overcome those challenges. So just tell me a bit about one of the big challenges that I see with a lot of business owners, which is what I'm passionate about helping with my clients, is we see a lot of business owners, they grow their business, some are relatively successful, some not so, but they literally put all their time and effort into growing that business, that often they can neglect other areas of their life, such as relationships, such as family time, kids, and most importantly, their own health. Is that something you see quite often, and what's your advice to your clients when it comes to looking after themselves?
It's very common. I've got a few clients who have gone really down that route. They're embedded in a business with other people. So it's all mentally, you're doing your part, aren't you? You're trying to be the best you can in that element or that part of that business. Plus people who are very independent, and it's all about they heavily neglect their own personal health and mental well-being. Obviously this year's been specifically difficult for a lot of people, as you can imagine, you would have seen yourself, because people have literally been in a point where they're not getting any financial help from the government and stuff like that, and they just don't know where the next paycheck's coming from. So every hour of the day has been hustling basically, and having to adapt and pivot with their own business. So especially through your January, February, Marches, and that when it's colder, a lot of people's health has gone right down the pan. It would have been interesting to be a fly in the wall on some of these doctor surgeries with people that are really struggling with this. I'd imagine there would have been a huge influx of people struggling with those kind of conditions and mentally. I've got colleagues and people I know that work within mental health, within military establishments, I've had conversations with them about it, and they said this huge amount of business owners and sole traders and stuff like that that were just massively struggling mentally because they neglected themselves, because it's just all about money, work to survive. Because you go into survival mode, don't you? So now more than ever, we've seen this countrywide, worldwide, really. So yeah, I see it quite a lot, unfortunately. I think it's just, that's the best thing these people can do that are in this position is, if they can't identify like what or how to fix it, is seeking guidance from mentors and coaches and people that have potentially been in that situation, actually reaching out in the first place, or just, almost finding mentors within social media perhaps that they follow and pick up a lot of tips and hints from, that they might not necessarily be able to financially afford that coaching or mentoring. There's still plenty of stuff out there to help people. I think that's the first key, is just that acknowledging that you have an issue, you need to do something about it, especially as you're perhaps a little bit older and you potentially have underlying health conditions or comorbidities as well that really do not help the situation. I think if you're at that point where you can acknowledge that, you're already winning. And understanding that you're already winning will help you, the next steps like come into line a lot quicker, I think.
Definitely. Yeah, mental health has been obviously it's always a big talking point. But obviously more so during the past sort of 18 months of us being in a pandemic and the entire world in lockdown. It's a situation that none of us have seen in our life. So it's a new challenge that we've had to all experience and face. So I think it's had an impact on everyone.
And you know what? I think I talked about this a bit on previous podcasts I've done recently with physicians. I've had quite a few doctors and specialists from the United States and the UK on. They're very heavily involved with like the pandemic and stuff. And one thing that's very common throughout when we've talked about people's mental states and stuff like that, and coming from somebody who's witnessed a hell of a lot of atrocities and that overcome a hell of a lot of terrible things in my life, I was very quick to point out that like every single one of us have experienced some form of trauma that we deem as like terrible at some point in our lives. Everyone's scale of that's different. There's not some like magic graph that says like, oh, you are now past the line of like where you qualify for PTSD or something like that. Everybody's different in that respect. You don't need to have been at war or anything. But what I've said to a lot of people who have kind of struggled on a group basis, a collective basis, is just saying like, cast your mindset back to like when you were at that time when you had this traumatic experience or overcome some real form of adversity or atrocity, and not necessarily the actual incident itself and having to overcome it, but like what you did mentally to get past that to where you are now. And it'll make you realize that what we've been through as a nation, as a group of people, is not really nowhere near as difficult as to some of the things that every single one of us would experience at some point in their life. And I think like when people have shifted their mindset slightly to that, it's actually helped them realize like, right, actually now I've got an opportunity to do X, Y, and Z. I'm not physically locked to my bed and getting spoon fed. I can, or we can do things financially, physically and mentally. We're not restricted in that sense. There's still plenty of stuff you can do, plenty of things you can, people you can get around, and people you can reach out to and learn from, and inspire, people who inspire you. And that's, again, I know you've done it. I've done it as well, made tons and tons of new connections in the last year, more so than I've ever done in my life, which has paved the way for, new business ventures, financial gain, new friendships, new relationships, and all the amazing stuff that comes with that. And, I think when you shift your mindset that way, things can be so much better for you. So I think no matter what the next 12 months throw at us, I think if we shift ourselves that way a little bit, I think it'll be a hell of a lot easier, and some respects better, a hell of a lot better than the last 12 months.
100%. I think we can all, turn any situation into something that's positive in our lives. I had Mark Ormrod on the podcast. He was my last guest a few weeks ago. I had Dave Watson as well. He's a motivational speaker. These guys have had limbs blown off in Afghanistan, and they've gone on to do amazing things. Arguably, would they have gone on to do what they'd done had those horrible experiences not had happened to them? It's just amazing to see, like, any situation can be turned.
100%. But you got to remember though, and obviously being friends with them both, and loads of other guys like Mickey Yule, really good friend of mine. He's another great guy to get on the show. He's is representing Team GB at the Paralympics. He lost his legs. He was one of my corporals when I was a junior soldier. He lost his legs in Afghan, and even his mentality to get through the initial injury just summed up the guy. He was like on the floor, like with his legs missing, telling people how to fix it. He was like, like proper raw Glaswegian. He's like, 2 tourniquets in here, tourniquet in here, stick some morphine in here. Like, do you know what I mean? And then the guy's powerlifting at in Tokyo this year. He benches around 190 with no legs. So, but the key thing is that like all these guys and girls who've like been injured, they haven't just like been injured, like, and just gone, I'm going to be a motivational speaker, or I'm going to be an author or have a podcast, stuff like that. They've been through like hell mentally initially, and come out the other side of it, and then gone to the path they have. They haven't just like got up, the drugs have worn off and the pain relief and that, and just gone, I'm going to do this. It's been extremely difficult with them. I've had lengthy conversations with these guys, and they've been on my podcast as well. And they've explained this, they had some real dark days. So it's like, it's that, that tenacity and everything to come out out those dark days, to actually see that we've got the ability to be able to do anything we put our minds to, even considering our physical capacity. In our Mark's aspect, for example, he's got one arm, triple amputee. So, I think any one of us can take a hell of a lot of inspiration from people like Mark and Dave, Mickey, and guys and girls all around the world are very much like that. And I think they're real good little bits of inspiration, that you can just flick on a switch, because you've got access to all their content on your phones and that. If you I know it's an easy cliche to say, like, oh, you're having a bad day, there's always somebody out there having a worse day. Sometimes people don't want to hear that, and that's the reality of it, because they're the one experiencing that right there and then. I know that we all know that there's situations in Africa and the Middle East and places like that where people are suppressed and in poverty and stuff. We know that, but I think for you, the individual right there and then, that's we don't always need to hear that, but I think we can just actually take inspiration from people that relate to us, who are doing great things. Things can change very quickly for you.
100%. It's always, when you're in that moment of struggle, it's always hard to see any real positive outside of what's going on in your world. But no, you're right. There is obviously there's always going to be someone having a worse day than you. Obviously, you as a soldier, did you experience any? I'm sure there was lots of sort of trauma that you went through as well. Did that have any negative impacts on your mental health coming off the back of your days as a soldier? Is there anything that you had to deal with and get through?
Yeah, so there was lots of things I experienced and witnessed. I think there was quite a few key points for me. 2010, one of my close friends was killed in Afghanistan. I was based in the UK at the time. He was stationed with us, and he got posted to this regiment he went to Afghan with. We then got asked by his wife to if we would do the honour of burying him, because we were quite close friends. It wasn't really the norm. They'd usually be like designated sort of like burial parties for like each regiment, because there was people obviously being killed. It was just a formality. But they agreed that his friends could do it, and so we did that. And I think just that the whole experience of that, the whole build up of like having to practice it, because it's not a case of just throw a coffin on your shoulder, 60 and just waddle along. It's all like regimental. It's all like certain paces and everything. So we had to like practice with a coffin with loads of big boxes of paper, office paper in to stuffed in there to simulate the weight. And practice at a regiment where there was loads of recruits going through training. So they're walking past, seeing these guys practicing funeral drill. Their reasoning was like to give them a wake-up call, like this is what could happen, this is what you signed up for, which I know there's two ways of looking at it, but we had to do that for a good week or so. And then the plane came back from Afghanistan with our friend Jonah on it to Bryce Norton. We marched up onto the plane, and that, it's just such a surreal feeling. They pulled his curtain back and there's your actual mate, like draped in a Union Jack. That was like getting punched in the stomach. It was just a strange feeling. We then kind of gathered ourselves, came down off the ramp off the Hercules, and then moved along and around. And I was the front right-hand man. So like I was like the first person. As I come around, I just like seen his wife and his kids there in his tent. And I was just like, wow. So I just like stare at the roof of this building behind him. So I didn't make eye contact with him, just because of how emotional it was. Then we had to like put Jonah in the hearse. That then went to Wootton Bassett. So those of you who can remember, at the height of Afghanistan, a lot of the troops were going through Wootton Bassett, and there was obviously everyone was paying their respects and stuff. And then 2.5 weeks later or so, I think it was, we buried him in his hometown in Newport, which was, terribly emotional. But that was a massive wake-up call to the realities of what was going on. And then very shortly after that, I went to Afghanistan as a commander. We unfortunately lost one of our guys. The vehicle in front was flipped 3 times by a massive IED. He was top cover. He died about 3 days later, I think it was, in hospital with severe head injuries. Fortunately, with his parents around him, so they got to say goodbye. But again, it was just a daily constant reminder of the severities of war. I've seen a minibus with 18 women and children hit a landmine and blow up and kill them all. And I actively talk about this stuff because that's like my therapy. I don't go into massive detail about the guys and girls that we've lost, because that's just disrespectful. But I talk about the incidents in terms of what I've witnessed and seen. And even helping a young boy, he was literally outside our camp. We had this big explosion. I was right near the gate. I was walking across it and seen this explosion, and then she saw this little lad on the floor. Knew he was on the actual road, so whatever he'd done was just off it. So I knew it was safe because we were coming in and out of it. And one of his legs was gone, and the other leg was just kind of hanging on. Took him straight to the medical little centre thing we had on our site, and the doctors kind of sorted him out. His dad wasn't far away, so we got him in, and he'd just been throwing rocks around, just playing like it's a little kid, like we would have done when we were little. And he threw a rock onto a pressure plate, which then set off a device, which would have been meant for us. And and it's so surreal. It's just like a crazy world we live in, and you're just seeing daily guerrilla tactics from the enemy, who aren't stupid. They're very smart, switched on, because they watch everything you do. And at the end of that tour, we lost six guys in our battle group in one hit right behind our fob, all age 19 to 21. And so all that kind of stuff will always stay with me forever. My best mate committed suicide on camp here near where I live, 4 years ago this month, actually, coming up, next week. And that was actually a real turning point for me, because he committed suicide in his room. There was alcohol involved, and unfortunately there's been a lot of cases of that where there's been alcohol involved with guys and girls that have taken their own lives in the military. I did the eulogy at his funeral as his best mate, and he was a godfather to my daughter. And it was actually doing his eulogy and standing there with this whole packed church in Matlock. There's people who've flown back from Canada, from Germany and stuff like that to pay their respects. And his 2 children were in front of me, and his the mums of the children, his mum, sister, and everybody else like that. And it was I didn't have any nerves. I just kind of I was making everyone laugh, telling them funny stories about how much of an idiot he was, and how he used to love just stripping off after a few beers. And, you know, it was great. And I had the whole place laughing and joking, which is what I really wanted to try and do. And it was actually then, I sat down and my missus was like, man, you didn't even like flinch. It was just like effortless. Like that was, you know, she was really impressed because of obviously the nature of what was going on. And I didn't really think of it like that. And it wasn't until afterwards I was like, you know, everybody was staring at me, looking for a bit of inspiration, a bit of laughter to take their mind off the fact that the person behind me in the coffin was their loved one, and that he was going to be, you know, buried at a military funeral. And that's when it was kind of like, I need to do this more often. Like I know I can do this. I know I can inspire people. And when I say do it more often, I don't mean stand there at eulogies, like talking at people's funerals and that, because that's just weird. You know, just being in front of people, giving them inspiration and help and guidance, develop, you know, being able to develop people. That was a really key point for me when I was like, I need to do this like properly. You know, this needs to be my thing. And since then, I've done like a lot of talks and obviously rooms, podcasts, coaching and stuff like that. So I'd say like from a military trauma point of view, that was a real big turning point in like what I do now, I think.
100%. Wow. What can I say? That's just, I've just got total respect for you, just being such a level-headed guy. You know what you've had to go through and stuff, and what you've seen and witnessed. You're just a normal guy, and it's like, we've just got so much respect for that.
Yeah, it's weird, and this is what I was saying earlier. You know, not everybody needs to have been in the army to you know, witness trauma and stuff like that. And I say this at a lot of talks and stuff. So like the lockdown, for example, you know, it's affected a lot of people traumatically. You know, people have lost people in that period.
Yeah.
And like every day's just not got any better. So you know, you don't need to have like been to war and witnessed atrocities and. Everyone's got their own version of war, you know. So people need to remember that. And but the best thing you can ever do is just surround yourself with people and just discuss it, you know. Like 100%. I've dealt with so many people over the years, and have so many friends that have gone down a horrible slippery slope mentally. I mean, I went through one myself when, you know, I missed out on being a professional football player. Stupidly got injured, and I was about 6 months of signing a pro contract. I went down a slippery slope because I thought my whole life was gone, lost. You know, then it turned to drink and drugs, and it was joining the army that basically saved me. So you know, I didn't have anyone to speak to about any of that though. It was kind of like my parents are still living in Germany. I was living with my nan and granddad. You know, I was like, I can't talk to my nan and granddad about it. They ain't gonna get it. You know, they're old pensioners. You know, like that stupid little attitude at 17, 18. So yeah, it's that was like the best thing I ever did, is just be very vocal about it, you know, in a respectful manner, because people can take a lot from it as well. And that's why I do a lot of work in Sierra Leone, and with the people of Sierra Leone. It's you know, the people in Sierra Leone, obviously people I've helped, have been through civil wars, they've been through barbarism, rape, torture, you know, multiple druggings. It's just like it was horrendous time, you know, which I'd never want anybody ever to experience ever, on a mass scale. You know, people are brutally murdered, and if you see it with your own eyes, the trauma that happened there, it's like, whoa, you know. But again, it just really solidifies like what's happened outside of our own shores, you know, that people don't even know about. And it's like really hit them in a bad way. But if you can be a part of that, try to bring a bit of inspiration to people like that, and then use things like social media, which is what we do when we go over there, to show people what their lives are like. You're on a great path to like changing people's lives, like in a small way, but in a big way.
Definitely. I think important. I think social media is, you know, I think it's a powerful thing. It can be a negative thing as well, but I think like if you surround yourself with positivity, follow good people, you know, be vocal about, you know, your life as well. Just talk, you know, be vocal and share.
Yeah, 100%.
Tell us about you. You made a positive health change, not so recently, actually. It was about 17 months ago. You decided to give up alcohol. Tell us a bit about what inspired that change and some of the benefits that you're hopefully now experiencing through doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was actually in Sierra Leone. I just done a week there, and the impact that that particular trip had on me, with the CEO of the charity. We having breakfast in the morning at the hotel we're staying at, and I just said, you know what, when I get back, I'm going to take a break from alcohol. I've actually listened to a couple of podcasts where people had said they'd just taken a break from it rather than going like, "Wow, I'm giving up," which is what a lot of people do. You know, they go cliche like, "I'm never drinking again," you know, and they feel rough. So I was very quick to say, right, I'm going to take a break from it and see where it goes, and that allowed me then to, like, you know, go week after week after week after week and just celebrate those little wins. From a benefit type of point of view, you know, obviously, you know, apart from all the constant comments from people saying that I still look like I'm in my 20s, you know, my skin looks great,
Which it was in your 20s.
yeah, which has had a massive, you know, impact. We know the health benefits of doing that.
Yeah.
I just think the focus and the clarity and the own tangible results I've got in my own business are a result of that. Because before I wasn't an alcoholic, I was like, oh, let's get a bottle of wine because United are playing on a Tuesday night. Bottle of wine because it's Europa League on a Thursday. Bottle of wine on Friday, and it's not like I just have a glass. I was just like very much typical military male, all or nothing. You know, there's no such thing as just a pint down the pub. It was like, see you at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, you know, so many people can relate to this. There's like a button on the back of your head where you're just drinking, you're fine, you're drinking, you're like, yeah, I'm absolutely fine. Then bang, now you're actually smashing, like, you go into like coma mode. There's no like in between. And I just had to identify that was an issue. And like, if I really wanted to achieve the things I wanted to achieve in business, mindset, physical health, I had to make a bit of a change about it. So that's why I decided to knock it on the head. And just like any habit, after a period of time, you just don't even think about it. So, and yeah. So like Euros was on, friends round, out watching it, just drink Heineken Zeros because it's still got a nice refreshing beer taste. If I can get in my car, drive home, or I get up early in the morning and get my head down.
Nice. So is it still a break, or is it just
yeah, it's like I can't see myself ever going back. Like it just doesn't faze me. I don't even think about it. So I just don't see the point in breaking the mold.
Nice, love it. Congratulations, man. That's impressive. I totally respect that, and many congratulations on doing that and all your accolades to date so far. Tell us how if anyone wants to reach out to you, get in touch with you, wants to inquire about business mindset coaching, how can people reach out? Have you got any programs you're running at the moment that you'd like to share?
Yes, people can hit me up on Instagram. I'm Mr._AJ Roberts. Same on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. My podcast is on YouTube as well, the AJ Roberts Show. I've taken a bit of a sort of shift with it. It's all about like really current affairs, really, from a medical and scientific point of view, because obviously it's a lot of what people are talking about. So it's been great for me to spend a lot of time with some of like the brainiest academics you can ever imagine spending some time with. And in terms of like courses and stuff, I've just brought a course out called How to Create the Best Content for Your Business. So it's a mini course which is really geared towards people that want to do stuff in their own time, maybe a bit short on funds and stuff like that, but can get loads of ideas for content, where best to hang out, where their ideal clients are, ideal markets, how to find them, how to create lead magnets, how to build an audience, you know, stuff like that. I've just brought that out recently, which is doing really well. It's been quite popular, and yeah, I'm always doing something. So you'll probably be out and about, and likewise, you know, obviously hang about on Clubhouse as well if anybody wants to catch up.
Nice. That's a great idea. I think, like, especially for coaches, many coaches are great coaches, but they're not so good when it comes to putting out content, generating leads, and getting themselves out there. You know, I've had that challenge myself in the past, but so I think that's a great offer. So definitely reach out to AJ if you need any help in that area or anything else business and mindset related. AJ, to sign out, have you got any final words, a mantra or something you'd like to share just to sign off the podcast?
Yeah, like be relentless, ladies and gents. Like, you know, and everyone's level of that is different, you know, but just be a little bit more relentless than you're being now if you want to achieve the things you want to achieve. It's as simple as that, you know. So just every single day, just to have that little persistent pursuit of excellence that just allows you to do things better and better and better. And that's all you need to do. You don't need to worry about being perfect. Just worry about you being that little bit better, and your results will come like 100%. Just worry about being you. That's all I'm going to say as well, because you know, you can only be you. Like, you physically cannot be anybody else, and funnily enough, nobody else can ever be you. So I think as long as you remember that, you know, you'll go a long way.
100%. I love that. Be you and be relentless. Amazing. AJ, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a real pleasure chatting to you and having you on my podcast. Really great conversation. And we look forward to connecting more.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Yeah,
Thanks for having us.
No worries.